Data center operators who focus only on offering colocation capabilities are set to miss out on opportunities across the wider spectrum of the market. Joining me today is Andy Stewart, CEO of Evoque Data Center Solutions, and Peter Roosakos, CTO of Foghorn Consulting, who are just taking this step. Guys, thank you for coming on the show, and I hope you've been doing well over the last year or so. First of all, let's start. Do you agree with what I just said, that the infrastructure first kind of approach doesn't really give you all the scope that you can take from the markets today as a colocation company?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's really the impetus behind the acquisition of Foghorn. It's the old way of doing things was force-fitting the application onto the infrastructure, and that's not really going to be successful, allow our customers to be successful going forward. So we know that we had to make a dramatic change in our go-to-market strategy, and that really starts with Foghorn and the team that Peter and Alex are leading.
Yeah, so I was going to pick up on that as well, and then Peter, maybe you can come on the show as well.
Sure.
So what are you announcing today? Because you're doing this shift from infrastructure-only approach to an application-first approach. Talk us through these shifts. Yeah,
so today we're announcing the rollout of what we've calling the multi-generational infrastructure strategy. And basically what that means is that CIOs and CTOs are dealing with a whole world of complexity. And frankly, the term hybrid is dramatically overused and becoming more meaningless. It's kind of the way of doing business. So this multi-generational approach is really looking at every single application that a CIO has to deal with and making sure that helping them make the right decisions on which infrastructure that should go on. And not only which infrastructure that goes on today, but what infrastructure should go on 6 months from now or a year from now. We've seen a number of customers where they roll something out in cloud first as kind of test dev, and then it makes sense to bring back into colo in the future. And then also some other applications that if you can modernize them, replatform, re-architect, make a lot more sense to move out of colo into the cloud. So we want to have that strategic conversation with our customers and really use Foghorn and their consulting capabilities to be that tip of the spear to lead discussions around digital transformation.
That's interesting. And Peter, as CTO of Foghorn, I mean, first of all, it's not every day that we see a colocation company buying a consulting company. So that alone, it's quite a story in itself. Tell us more. What do you see in the markets along the lines of what Andy just said, and what are you going to bring to the table at Evoque?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so we've been in the infrastructure business, the founders of Foghorn, for over 25 years, starting from the first .com boom days where we were working with. Actually, our consulting company got acquired by a co-location provider, Exodus Communications, with the goal of helping companies build and scale mission critical infrastructure. So this to us is just an evolution with new technology. And we definitely see companies, instead of going with a simplified strategy that's easy to roll out, but limits them to a single infrastructure strategy, moving as businesses, as IT drives the top line revenue more and more, and business units have more control, and they really want their specific application to run an infrastructure that's optimized for their application. And so for companies to be able to satisfy all of those needs, they really need to be able to satisfy multiple platforms and have a strategy that really focuses on the application first. And this is something that becomes easier with technologies like virtualization and cloud and containerization. And so we see this picking up a lot of speed.
Well, but then one interesting thing that's happening in the infrastructure space is that we are developing more infrastructure. So we have colocation, on-prem, hyperscale, edge computing is massive now. I'm sure there's something else already being made in the labs around the world. How does it's not partnership, but how does this acquisition, how does your new solution kind of is tailored to that new world where there's so much going on, so much infrastructure that needs to talk to each other at the same time?
Yeah, and we've always been an infrastructure, we've always been a customer first company where we've developed, we work with our customers to develop infrastructure agnostic solutions. So I don't think that's necessarily new. I think what's really new and interesting to us is that Evoque, and this is what really turned us on to Evoque, is that Evoque really wanted to be the vendor that can embrace that and be the partner that goes along the entire journey with the customer. And that's something we've been doing for a long time, except we didn't have that co-location piece. We had mostly cloud expertise. And so this is a super exciting addition to really round out our ability to do this for our customers.
It sounds like a good match to me.
Yeah.
So you were going to say something.
No, absolutely. So I think that phrase that Peter talked about, infrastructure agnostic, is really critical. So as a data center provider only, we are not agnostic, right? We want everything to be in colo and to stay in colo, and that's just not realistic. I think this new approach is much more in line with what our customers are thinking, as opposed to trying to only sell them one piece of the puzzle. The Foghorn team can come in and have a much more strategic, holistic discussion about which applications which applications belong in cloud, which applications belong in colo, and even a roadmap for doing that. One thing that we find with CIOs is that they're so overwhelmed by how many things they have to do, and they only have so much time and so much budget. So giving them guidance on which applications, hey, listen, keep this in colo, move this into an Evoque data center for the next 3 years, and in 3 years' time, maybe we re-architect that to move it to the cloud. Whereas these other applications that are more revenue generating or they might be more customer facing, let us tackle those first. And one of the things that was really impactful for me for the acquisition was we got a chance to do customer interviews of Foghorn, and they kept on talking about their team as thought leaders, as bringing a much broader perspective to help tackle the specific problems that customer is having, whether it's a massive global gaming company or pharma, healthcare, financial services, really across the board. All of those industries are dealing with a lot of the same issues. And a team like Foghorn, who's a premier partner for AWS, gold certified for Azure, capabilities with Google, that team can come in there and be a much more consultative partner for those decisions.
I was going to ask now, in terms of bringing the two businesses together, so including Foghorn into Evoque, what's the process been like? Are you already doing the process? Are you just starting it now? What has had to change at Evoque? What has changed on the Foghorn side, so in terms of staff and everything? Talk us through the bringing the two brands together. Actually, the first question is before that, are you going to keep the brands separated, or are you going to integrate Foghorn into Evoque? And then talk us through the integration.
Yeah, so right now, out of the gate, we're going to keep the Foghorn name separate as a standalone kind of brand. They've built up a lot of credibility, and Evoque is a data center company. It's going to take us a while to help establish that credibility in our own cloud. So in the interim, it'll be continue to be branded as Foghorn Consulting. I'm excited to hear Peter's answer on the integration. I can tell you kind of from my standpoint. So one, we went into this deal because Peter and his brother Alex, co-founder I mentioned. In the end, you do business with people, and I don't, none of us have kind of enough time to work with people we don't respect and like and enjoy being with. So from a personality standpoint, it's just a really good fit, right? They are good people. I think we try to at Evoque, we've hired and brought on really good, decent, hardworking folks. So that is first and foremost. As it relates to how this changes Evoque, we're really kind of completely changing our go-to-market strategy, both with our direct sellers as well as with our channel partners, in leading, instead of trying to lead with, here's what our data centers look like, here's the redundancy and the capacity, instead leading with this consultative message around multi-generational infrastructure and the application first approach. So we've put our entire organization through training to make sure they're prepared to do that. We've kind of done a complete refresh with our website and everything else. And it is a large change in go-to-market for us. And I think the integration in terms of the people, the processes has all been pretty smooth so far.
Yeah, and from a Foghorn standpoint, so a lot of those feelings are mutual. We've been approached by dozens of companies over the last 5 years, and what the driving factor, although first off, our visions are tightly aligned with Evoque's visions, which is great. But also the people at Evoque have been great to work with, and we started actually planning to do a partnership, and we were super excited about that. And it's been a great journey so far. As far as things changing at Foghorn, there's one thing that's kind of neat for us is that although we've been an infrastructure agnostic company, we were really a cloud infrastructure agnostic company, multi-cloud company. And now being part of Evoque, that really rounds out and brings more credibility from my perspective in our ability to be impartial and really pick the right solution for our customers. So that's an exciting change. Working with the additional scale of Evoque, being able to speak with their sales teams, with their leadership, and with their starting to speak with their customers, just can really accelerate our ability to get our reach out there. We're a small company. We didn't have the marketing and sales power. So we're excited about that. And Andy's been great. He's including Alex and I in a bunch of the Evoque leadership strategy meetings, and being part of that has been really exciting. Being able to leverage what we've done at a much larger scale.
Well, the sky is the limit when you join a bigger company.
Yeah,
I've been through some acquisitions myself, so you're going to enjoy the ride. But look, so you are launching this solution today. Foghorn is joining Evoque today. What's the next headline? What are you working on to announce in a few weeks, in a few months? What's next?
Yeah, so I think there are a few things. One area that we really want to dive into is the concept of spend portability. In that a customer, as we kind of mentioned earlier, they may know they want to move something to the cloud, but they don't know exactly when, or they may not have the budget to do it. So if we can work with customers under a kind of a broader contract and agree to an annual amount of spend, whether that spend is in colocation, professional services, or cloud consumption, that is something pretty unique that we can bring. And it gives our customers and our prospects a lot of freedom, right? They're not kind of getting locked into just a 3-year colo deal. They're not getting locked into spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to migrate something in the cloud, and then that's only where it can reside going forward. So that idea of spend portability will be rolling out. In addition to that, over time, I think we'll start doing much more around managed consumption, whether that's consumption in public cloud or consumption in some of the solutions that AWS and Azure are coming out with, like Outposts and Azure Stack, giving that as a stair step to where customers are going.
Okay, Peter, would you like to add anything to that, or?
Sure. One of the interesting dynamics of when it is appropriate to migrate a workload to the cloud, one of the main tenets, you never migrate and transform at the same time. So the common current methodology is to migrate first. Since you can't transform to cloud native offerings, migrate first and transform. And the challenge there is you're running very inefficiently until you're able to transform, and sometimes that takes a lot longer than you'd like. When we're looking at flipping that on its head with containerized deployment methodologies and Kubernetes and other those technologies, we're really in a position now to be able to help companies transform first while they're where they currently are, and then migrate incrementally. And so we're excited to move forward with that, which to me is a much lower risk, a lower cost, and higher value strategy.
Okay. And Andy, one last question now around Evoque and maybe the colocation side of the business. You've got over 25 data centers, at least 25 data centers in 25 different cities in 11 countries across North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. What's next? What are you planning in terms of expansion? Any acquisitions on the pipeline? Entering new markets like Latin America, Africa? Give us a quick roundup of what to expect from the colocation side of the business.
Yeah. So our data centers are by and large in tier 1 markets in North America and Europe, and a little bit of in Asia. I'd say in North America, we are looking at expanding in a couple of our existing markets. We've had great growth on the colocation side, which is necessitating multiple megawatt expansions in a few key markets. Also, we're looking at new markets to get into. We're starting to see a little bit of early stage hyperscale demand for secondary markets, and I think that's an area where Evoque can be successful. And it's interesting, we can both deploy a large data center to support hyperscale, and then also bring the multi-generational application first approach to enterprise customers in those markets. So that's a lot of where we're focusing on right now. And then in Europe, we have a decent platform, but probably not at scale. So we have been actively looking for acquisitions throughout Europe as well, in both primary and secondary markets, and looking at existing data centers as well as potential of buying land and for future development.
Okay, well, it sounds all very exciting and in line with what's happening across the entire world, with more and more money being put into building data centers. Guys, do you have anything else you want to say about the news today, about the market?
No, I would just say we think this is going to be disruptive in that you don't, like you mentioned at the very beginning, colocation providers aren't out buying cloud companies, and you can't put your head in the sand as a colo provider and think that you can just avoid the impact the cloud is having. So when we decided to move forward with this acquisition, it was because of what customers were telling us and what clients were saying they wanted Evoque to be able to do beyond just space and power. So I'm excited and look forward to telling you how successful this is 6 months from now.
And Peter, I assume you take the same kind of stance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Andy and Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you for watching at home. And don't forget to subscribe and follow the Tech Capital. And remember, you lead, we report. Bye for now.